unseen, where shadows play. Tune in, let's drift away.
Midnight whispers on the airwaves, ghostly echoes from hidden graves. Tune your mind to the spectral sounds where Bigfoot roams and the mystery abounds. Chasing lights in the midnight sky, UFOs land and watch them fly. Paranormal truths wrapped in disguise, where the seekers no need to be shy. Take a ride with us into the unknown. Midnight frequency radio, where wild tales are grown. Aliens calling, hear the echo of the past. Time travel dreams, moving forward and fast. Shadow people lurking just out of sight. In the corners of your mind, they whisper tonight. Government cover-ups, secrets concealed. The truth is out there, slowly revealed. Voices crackle through the static haze, tales of the cryptids that haunt our days. With every heartbeat, feel the thrill and the fear. We're not alone, the message is clear. Take a ride with us into the unknown. Midnight frequency radio, where wild tales are grown. Aliens calling, hear the echo of the past. Time travel dreams, moving forward and fast. Where reality bends, time loses its grip. We're on a journey, let your mind slip. Through portals of time and space we glide. Follow the signals, let your soul ride. With each turn of the dial, adventure sparks. We're going beyond where the daylight darks. Let the stories unfold, the myths come alive. In the tapestry of night, we thrive and survive. Fear not the unknown, let go of your doubts. In this midnight hour, we'll figure it out. The galaxy is waiting, the time is now. Join us on this ride, we'll show you how. Take a ride with us into the unknown. Midnight frequency radio, where wild tales are grown. Aliens calling, hear the echo of the past. Time travel dreams, moving forward and fast. With sense and shadows, we end our show. Keep your dial tuned and follow the glow. Midnight frequency, where mysteries blend. The adventure goes on, and it will never end.
Good evening from the Ozark foothills of northeast Arkansas. I'm Carl Richardson, and you're listening to Midnight Frequency Radio. Tonight's guest is Marilynn Hughes. Miss Hughes founded the Outer Body Travel Foundation in 2003. Miss Hughes has also experienced, researched, written, and taught about out-of-body travel and mysticism since 1987, and has spoken on dozens of radio and television programs to discuss her thousands of out-of-body experiences. She has studied the ancient sacred text of all major and minor world religion. Miss Hughes has authored 138 books, 40 magazines, and 18 CDs on out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. Good evening, Miss Hughes, and welcome to Midnight Frequency Radio.
Hi, Carl. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I've read a lot of your literature, but I think my first question would be how you got involved in this subject matter.
Well, I think it kind of found me. I started having experiences in my early childhood, and then it kind of dissipated and it came back in my early adulthood. I started journaling the experiences, and I guess I'd say the rest is history. Those journalings that I did, became the first books that I started writing. And, over time, I started seeing these patterns and uh, you know, things that were coming out of it. And wow, I had no idea, how much could come out of it, but it sure did. you know.
Yeah. Is the out of body experience somewhat frightening, I guess, in the beginning?
In the beginning, it can be because of the sheer powerfulness of it, to some extent. For the most part, most of the time, that's what people are going to be the most afraid of is the sheer powerfulness of it. Sometimes it's just, the fear of that unknown. It can also be, fearfulness of things that, people can have genuine need to be afraid of, people can have experiences with the dark side, but for the most part, most people are afraid of the sheer power of it. You go into a vibrational state. The vibrational state is extremely, extremely powerful. I often compare it to the power of a jet engine. It's like the sound, it's like having a jet engine right next to your ears. Um, the vibration itself, it's like your body is being revved like a jet engine. Um, and so you're experiencing something that is so far outside of your normal physical experience that in and of itself can be really frightening in the beginning. But you do adjust to it fairly quickly and realize it's just the literally it's your psyche adjusting to the vibration of the spirit versus the vibration of the physical form. Physical form has a much lower vibration than the physical, other than spiritual body, which has a much higher vibration. So when you flip into that vibration of the spirit, it's a very, very significant shift. And so it can blow your mind in the very beginning, yes.
I'm sure it would me. I've heard other people discussing the experience where they've had like hands reaching for their ankles, trying to pull them downward. Have you ever had that experience, or?
I have not. No, I have not.
That's probably a good thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that does sound a little bit borderline there. Yes, in terms of a little bit concerning.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that would be the lower realms of the
That could
astral
be.
travel. Yeah,
That could be. Sometimes you can have situations either with ghosts, wandering spirits. That could be any number of things. Uh, and this is, that could get very complicated in terms of trying to explain the differences between dealing with the higher vibrational beings versus the wandering spirits, the lost souls, the ghosts, which are wandering around like the astral realm, which is that the fourth dimension, which overlaps our third dimensional sphere of existence, which is where we reside. And that's where you have those types of souls that are um, not really after your highest good, let's put it that way.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and they're kind of, they're they can be tricksters, they can have darkness in them, and they can also just they can be malicious as well. So there can be quite a wide uh, chasm in there between what you're dealing with. And then there are, of course, even lower types of things that people can be dealing with. And so uh, that sort of a description would give me pause as to what someone might be dealing with.
Yes, ma'am. In all of your out of body experiences and your spiritual encounters, is there one most impactful thing that stands out to you?
One most impactful. Oh my goodness. Um, I've had so many thousands of experiences. Um, I would say that the times, I mean, there is so many. There are so many.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just pick one. I would say probably the most impactful experience that I had when I was given the opportunity to go to this throne room of God and experience, and this is really hard to explain, and so I apologize for the inadequacy of language,
No
but
worries.
I was allowed to experience and move with the mind of God, so to speak, for several hours through one night. And it was like I was experiencing how God was moving with millions of different souls every moment, every second. And for that period of time, I was able to process and experience the entire story of these millions of souls that he was helping every second. And I was feeling it, experiencing it, uh, understanding it, and understanding what God was doing with each one of these souls in every second, um, uh, throughout the night. So like from a simple thing like trying to help an older woman find her lost wedding ring, because finding that lost wedding ring would rekindle some kind of memory that was going to be vital for her in some type of spiritual awakening that she needed, to another soul who was going to have some type of very important religious awakening, to another soul who was going to have something done to their spirit to understand and have something awaken within them on the knowledge of the angels, to another soul who, I mean, it was infinite. It was infinite. And what was so fascinating about this experience, I can never put it in words, and I know I'm doing a terrible job of it right now, was that I really understood that night that God really does see each and every one of us at all times. And for that moment, I got to experience how, and that it really was significant. It really was substantially real in the mind of God that we were all present there at the same time. And he was moving constantly through the universal field of being, and he was moving and making these alterations throughout the vibration of life, and doing things that were going to help different souls, to help them with whatever the next step was in their individual evolution. And I cannot express that experience sufficiently.
Well,
It was just so amazing.
uh,
It
uh,
was so amazing.
it sounds quite overwhelming.
It really was. It was just I was in a state of ecstatic bliss, when I returned from it. And every time I think of it, it brings me back to it, the awe of it, the awe of it. And I've had so many beautiful experiences, from spending time with the saints, to being with our Lord, with the Blessed Mother, with different prophets, saints, mystics, sages, ascetics from throughout time and history, from every religion, from every culture, and being taught at the feet of the masters from throughout time and history, and experiencing these vibrations, which are then, given and transferred to me in some way to help me to transform as well, to educate me, but also to help me to arise to a higher vibration. Because one of the things I always talk about in my interviews is that knowledge is not information, it's vibration. And that's one of the most important things that I've learned throughout all these years of having thousands of these out-of-body experiences. It's knowledge is vibration. And that the more that you travel through these spheres, what's happening is knowledge, you are being taught things, but the purpose of all these things is that your vibration is being raised. You even go through these vibrational raisings over time. And as you go through these vibrational raisings, you become capable of going to higher and higher spheres of development and into higher spheres of existence. And as you continue to move, then you start understanding and understanding and understanding these higher and higher fields of being. And it's all about vibration is knowledge. Information is not the knowledge. The knowledge is vibration. And so this is the most important thing to understand. It's this vibration. And this is partly how we can sometimes really put together what many of the great sages and ascetics have said to us throughout history, even in the paths of Taoism, in the paths of Zen, and in the paths of the great masters of the Christian tradition and many of the traditions, the mystics of the Kabbalah, the mystics of Hinduism and Buddhism, and all of these paths, even the Hindus of the mystics of the Sufi tradition, and all of these mystic paths, is that this is all about this ability of us to go to this higher vibration. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. And of course, it being Friday the 13th, I was having audio trouble, which thanks to one of my listeners in chat let me know. So I appreciate that, Panel. All right, let me get back on the right track here. Through the years, is there any particular people that have influenced you the most with astral projection and spirituality?
Well, the irony of that question is that in my out-of-body experiences, I was led and guided to study the paths of the ancient sacred texts. And that included, the writings of the prophets, saints, mystics, sages, and ascetics from all traditions throughout the world. And so there are a lot of these greats that I have been, impacted by. I would say, some of my favorites would be St. John of the Cross is one of the greatest mystical writers, I would say, who exists. But there are so many in terms of not just their writings, but their lives, the vibration that they've left behind. One of the things that I wrote a book called At the Feet of the Masters, and then we did a two-part documentary called At the Feet of the Masters, which is about the vibration that we receive when we just sit at the feet of a master. And there is this vibration that we receive when we just listen or sit at the foot of a master and receive of their wisdom, their vibration, their guidance. And there are so many of these, just some that come to mind, Guru Nanak of these of the Sikh tradition, all of that. And then there's so many, Saint Catherine of Siena, there's so many of these mystical saints in the Catholic tradition. There's Saint Hildegard of Bingen. There's St. Francis of Assisi, the Carmelite saints, um, St. Teresa of Avila. But there's also so many in these other traditions as well. For instance, Rumi. Rumi is probably one of the deepest mystical poets, um, and and he's so fascinating because his mystical poetry is so deep and it is so mystical. And I think um, sometimes maybe a lot is missed if you're not someone who is a traveler, so to speak. A lot is missed in his words because he says so much with so few words. Um, there are so many. The Buddha, you know,
Yeah.
the Buddha and so many of the Buddhist masters and teachers. There are so many of the Jewish rabbis. Um, that have been Moshe Chaim Luzzatto was one of my favorites, who was one of the mystical Kabbalists, really a great writer of the Jewish tradition. There are so many. There are so many. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, ma'am. In everyone's life, is understanding consciousness a big part of their understanding it, a big part of their spiritual journeys?
I'm sorry. Can you
I
say that again?
okay. Um, is understanding consciousness a big help with each individual's independent spiritual journeys?
Oh, yeah. Definitely, it is a big help in the path of out-of-body travel or mysticism is absolutely helpful. There's a whole science behind it. It's the science of mystical theology, actually. There's uh, a whole science behind it. I have a whole bunch of shelves over here filled with some of the greatest works on mystical theology, not just from Western traditions, but lots of Eastern traditions as well. You'd be surprised the work that's been written all over the world in the ancient sacred texts on mystical theology. And mystical theology is, in essence, it's the science of the soul, but it is the science of the purification of the soul. And ironically, one of the things that I've been taught in my out-of-body experiences has been that one of the things that we all come here to do is the purification of the soul. And so mystical theology is this great science of the purification of the soul, because that's what we're all kind of here to do. And um, the more that we actually study that science of the purification of the soul, whether it's through these great works or through the actual practice or a combination of both, the more we are traveling towards the destination that our life here on earth is actually intended to reach, which is that purity that we're all trying to achieve. And you'll find that in my books and stuff, I talk a lot about this path of purification. In the book that I often recommend for people when they're starting out, The Mysteries of the Redemption, a treatise on out-of-body travel and mysticism, it lays out the path of purification and then the following paths that come after. And we also did a documentary film called The Grand Phases of the Soul. And by the way, you can go to our website at outofbodytravel.org and you can download these things freely. So you can read these things, you can watch our films, it's all free. You can do that. You can also purchase anything if you like to, have hard copies or whatever. You can do that as well. But you can go there and download this stuff freely. And so you can go watch that and learn about the grand phases of the soul, which is purification, the discrimination pathway, and the discipline pathway, which is actually modeled on the Buddhist pathways of the great grand pathways of the soul. And so, but these are the great monastic pathways, and there's similar pathways that are laid out in the great Christian traditions as well. You'll see it as well in the Islamic pathways of the Sufis, and you'll also find it in Buddhism and Hinduism, and in all paths. You'll find it in the tribal cultures as well. So this sort of path is something that is actually innate to pretty much all of us, because it is actually the reason that we incarnate here to this sort of realm. And what kind of realm are we in? We are in what's called a mortal realm. This is where the battles between good and evil rage, and they rage here within us and all around us. And this is why this is the type of place we incarnate for this path of purification. And so this is something we all share. So if you're incarnate here, you can be assured that this path of purification is completely relevant to your spiritual path. And so it makes it simple, right? It simplifies it for us that, oh, okay, so this has something to do with me and why I'm here and what I need to take a look at, what I might need to know a little bit more about while I'm traveling this earthly road,
Yeah. Have you had any challenges in your spiritual practice?
I've had so many challenges. But the thing, there's so many that it's going to be hard to pick any out, but I'll try. I've had a lot of serious health situations that I've dealt with, and I've had all the normal things that uh, are part of the spiritual path, the things that come along, which are the the aridities, the times where you feel far away from God, the times when you feel like everything is taken from you and you don't know where, all kinds of things that occur that are pretty normal parts, the dark nights of the soul, the uh I think that there's so many difficulties on the spiritual path. It might be easier if you point out ones that you might want to talk about in particular, but the health things are ones that people deal with a lot, and I dealt with some really, really serious health things and still do,
Yes.
but um, I was given a terminal diagnosis 25 years ago. I was supposed to get a heart transplant, and that ended up not happening. And I wasn't supposed to, live for more than a few years. And here I am. And I had this beautiful experience where I had a near-death experience, and I was taken to the tunnel, and I was shown a few things. I was shown about how I was allowed to go and take a journey, and Christ was there, and he took me beyond the tunnel and showed me a lot of the beautiful worlds beyond there. And I was allowed to see a lot of really beautiful things, and it was really awesome. And then he shared with me the uh, this understanding about how our life here is really going, it's the purpose of our life is really can be very easily simplified to that we are supposed to go from selfishness to selflessness. And he showed me where I was on that scale of selfishness to selflessness. He showed me where those around me were on that scale. And he told me that at that time, it was okay for me to go. If I needed to go, I could go. If I wanted to go, it was okay. Um, it was perfectly fine. I had done everything I needed to do. But if I wanted to go back, I could. And at the time, my kids were very young, very, very young.
Yeah.
Um, and and I looked at him and I said, well, as long as it's still, my choice, I think I want to go back because my kids are so young. I have to go back and try to raise my kids. And so he said, well, then I want you to go back and I want you to pray for a heart transplant. And I just looked at him and said, I'm sorry, Lord, I can't do that. And he looked at me real intensely, and I just said, but I will go back and I will pray that you will spare the life of the perfectly healthy person who would have to die for me to get a new heart. And I will take my chances with the one I've got.
Wow.
And
That's deep.
and he looked at me, gave me a very intense look, and and I mean, you have to kind of get a feel for the scene. I mean, he's wearing the robes of the Sacred Heart, which is the deep red and the white, the striking red and the white, and his hair is that deep brown, and his eyes are so deep brown and intense, and he just looks at me and he says, I grant that. And then he takes my hand and he starts flying me towards the earth again. And we stop somewhere before the earth. And we're like it's almost like a coffee shop, bookshop kind of place. And this was like, around 2003. So this was when we still had those kinds of things, you
Yeah.
know. And and we sit down at a table where, behind us there's like the coffee shop goings on, and in front of us there's some bookshelves. And he says to me, I'm not going to heal you, but I'm going to help you. And I just nod, and he points at the bookshelves in front of me. And he says something about those books being, he says, I'm going to make good use of you in the time that you have left. And I understand that those books that he's pointing at are books that he wants me to write, but he's pointing at an awful lot of books. So I'm like, huh? I'm like, okay, uh-huh. But I'm like, at the time I had written two books, so if you kind of compare it to, I've written 138 now, and it was two at the time. I was like, okay, okay, all right. You know, you're the boss, all right. But I couldn't really comprehend it. I was just like, okay. And but it was I was going to make good use of you, okay. And then all of a sudden I wake up, and what was interesting about this was, I guess we'll back up just a little bit. This was the morning I was supposed to go into the hospital because uh I had my heart failure had been getting a lot worse, and so they had me going in that morning to for a procedure. I was going in that morning for a procedure. I lived in a small mountain town. They were going to have a chopper on standby, and they were planning to do a cardiac catheterization. And the plan was then to fly me up to Denver and have me stay in Denver, probably to wait for a transplant. I'm assuming something like that.
Uh-huh.
And that was the plan. Um, and basically, so I went to the hospital, went under for this procedure, whatever they did. They didn't, they don't put you under, but you're kind of loopy, and then whatever. And
Yeah.
then,
I've had that experience.
yeah. And then, so I wake up or come out of it a little bit later and I'm still in the same hospital. And so I just asked the doctor, the cardiologist, I'm like, well, why am I still here? And he said, well, we can't quite explain it, but your heart's doing a little better than it was last week. It's not healed, but it's better enough that we aren't worried about you needing to go up for the transplant anymore
Well,
this
that's
week.
fantastic.
Yeah, and then so what ended up happening was until 2015, I stayed in heart failure and had the cardiomyopathy, and they just treated me. And then and I had the heart failure all those years. And then in 2015, I actually did have a miraculous healing of the cardiomyopathy and the heart failure. And it just spontaneously healed. And it's been gone for almost 10 years now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I live near the Mayo Clinic, and my cardiologists here have said to me, they made a point to point out to me, they said, do you realize how bizarre and unusual it is for that to happen? That does not happen. And I'm like, no, but I appreciate you bringing it up because, sometimes I don't realize that, is did this just happen? Or, and it's a good reminder that, yeah, I did get some help there, and a reminder to be grateful,
Yeah, I have a similar heart condition. It's called idiopathic hypertrophic subaortic stenosis.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
there's two treatments for that. They can go in, and what it is, the muscle is enlarged below the aortic valve. So
Yeah.
when the heart beats, it doesn't pass as much blood through the valve as it should because it's blocked.
Uh-huh.
And one treatment is going in and removing the excess muscle, just cutting it out. And that particular idea didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
And the other one is called an alcohol septal ablation. And they go in and balloon off either side of the vein where that enlarged muscle is at, and they inject it with alcohol, and it induces a heart attack, and it forces the muscle to die, which in turn shrinks it and improves the situation. But I opted for that instead of the open heart. That didn't appeal to me at all. But,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. We're past the bottom of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and take the first break. It's about 6 minutes long, so if you need to refresh your drink or whatever, and we'll be right back after that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
In the air, footsteps of the unseen lurking everywhere. Lights in the sky burning bright and bold. Tales of the unknown waiting to unfold. Underneath the stars where the secrets reside, ancient beings stealthily glide aside. Reptilians crawl with their eyes so cold, holding the keys to the stories untold. Humanoids watching reflections of man. In the shadows they circle with a chilling plan. Insectoids buzzing like a haunting refrain, whispering through the cosmos, calling out my name. Aliens visit us in the night, dancing through the darkness in the pale moonlight. From the bleak days to
This is Dark Matter News. I'm Joshua Stark. In a landmark scientific discovery, researchers have detected toxic industrial chemicals in the atmosphere over North America for the first time. The chemicals, known as chlorinated paraffins, are widely used in products such as lubricants, flame retardants, sealants, and plastics. The detection was made by a team from York University in Canada during a series of research flights over the oil sands region of Alberta and agricultural areas in southern Ontario. Using advanced onboard instruments, the team found airborne concentrations of the toxic compounds at varying altitudes, a result that shocked even experienced scientists. We were surprised to detect chlorinated paraffins at these altitudes, said Dr. Miriam Diamond, one of the lead researchers. Their presence in the air means that they can travel long distances and potentially reach remote, sensitive environments. Chlorinated paraffins are part of a larger group of chemicals called persistent organic pollutants, or POPs. These substances resist degradation in the environment, can accumulate in living organisms, and are known to be toxic, especially to aquatic life. Some forms have been banned or restricted under the Stockholm Convention, a global treaty targeting hazardous pollutants. However, many variations are still produced and used widely around the world. The study's findings raise new concerns about the atmospheric transport of industrial chemicals. Hey, it's summer, and Dark Matter News has some extra gaming time on its hands. Luckily, this is the time of the year gaming developers announce new games, and they have delivered a stellar lineup of space and sci-fi games. Some of the highlights include Marvel Cosmic Invasion. It's heading to consoles and PC in fall to winter 2025. The beat-em-up features 15 Marvel heroes, including She-Hulk and Rocket Raccoon, battling through iconic locales like New York and the Negative Zone. Mecha Break, a mech combat game from Amazing Season, prepares for a free-to-play July 2nd launch on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Planet of Lana 2 was teased, no date yet, but it's coming to all major platforms in 2026. These reveals underscore the developers' push into sci-fi and galactic adventures. A cosmic summer for gamers is officially underway. This is Dark Matter News. Catch up with us at the all-new darkmatternews.com, coming soon.
Hi, this is Jessica with C. Crane. Tired of spotty radio reception and static? C. Crane CC Wi-Fi 3 Internet Radio offers a crystal clear solution with audio guaranteed to outperform any smartphone speaker. With an internet connection, tune in to over 30,000 radio stations from around the world, all conveniently accessible without needing any apps, providing personal information, or additional monthly subscriptions. Enjoy complete privacy with no microphone or eavesdropping. The CC Wi-Fi 3 boasts a user-friendly interface with a full-sized remote for easy control. It also doubles as a Bluetooth speaker for your favorite music and podcasts. Ready to upgrade your listening experience? You can get the CC Wi-Fi 3 by calling C. Crane at 800-522-8863 or by visiting us online at ccrane.com. Once again, that's CCRANE.com.
Shadows in the night, stories that they tell of beings from the light. In the dark they come alive, taking souls away underneath the starry veil where truth and dreams decay.
A flash of light, then a body goes still. Voices echo softly, bending to their will. Sleepers in their rooms, caught in a trance. A moment of sweet terror, an unspoken dance. Memories erased like dust in the breeze. What happened in that hour? Oh, they beg and they plead. Emotional scars that run so deep. Waking in the daylight, yet unable to sleep. Taken by the stars, I'm lost in the haze. Caught between reality.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to Midnight Frequency Radio. I'm your host, Carl Richardson. Our guest, once again, is Marilynn Hughes. Miss Hughes, I'm really amazed at your recovery from your heart condition, and to be honest, I think you had divine intervention, and it's truly astonishing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think so too. And I was very honored and grateful for that intervention. And Um, yeah, I'm not sure why, but I'm grateful.
Well, you need to write more books. That's
I
why.
guess so. I guess so.
Are you involved with dream interpretation?
I try to do that sometime. I don't consider it like my great gift, but I certainly do try, and I do engage with that with my friends and try to do that. I know like one of the books in the new series that I just released is on dreams and sleep and a lot of that kind of stuff because dreams and sleeping is all part of, it's like the precursor to the out of body experiences. And so I do think it's all deeply related.
Well, I had a dream. My mother passed away in May of last year
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
from pneumonia, and then her organs started shutting down. But a few days after that, I had a dream that we were in her room and she was back there, and I'm like, Mom, why are you here? You've passed away. And she never said anything. She just walked from her room out the front door and starting walking up our road and walked away. And she never said anything to me during the course of the dream.
Yeah.
And that's puzzled me ever since I had it. And I'm, you know,
Oh, I don't think you need to be puzzled. I think that it comes across to me as that you actually pointed out to her that she had passed on and that she began walking and that she was finding her way home, and she also was in a sense wanting to say goodbye. A lot of times our loved ones really do want to say goodbye as much as we do, and they'll try to find an opportunity to do that, you know
yeah,
either through a dream. And a lot of people often experience even like an apparition type thing where they appear at the foot of their bed or things like that too. So some people have it in their dreams. Some people will have those apparition experiences where they appear, and other people experience it in other ways, like they have experiences with butterflies or birds or balloons or
yeah.
you know
I guess the reason it affected me, she didn't say anything to me, and I had to make the final decision to take her off of life support. And
okay.
I was felt the dream was showing me that she was mad because I made the decision to do that. But in the hospital, right before we took her off, I she could hear and she could squeeze. If you held her hand, she could squeeze your hand. And I asked her, I said, Mother, if you're ready to go, if you're ready to pass, squeeze my hand. And she did. So to me, that was a confirmation that's what she wanted. But then I had the dream and it affected me like, but was she angry because I finally had to because of the decision that I made? But I did it because I simply didn't want to see her suffer anymore. So,
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people talk to me about situations like this, and in the basically, I don't think I've come across a single instance where people had really much of a choice. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think that if you're really honest with yourself, you probably didn't have much of a choice at in the sense of, in our modern day, we have this new scenario where yes, we can keep people alive, so to speak, but if a person cannot, if we can keep a person, alive with quotation marks, but they cannot actually be restored to life, so to
yeah.
speak. I
That's
mean,
not really a
it's
way to
different.
go. Yeah,
It's a very different sort of thing than like a situation where maybe someone might, maybe they're going to be in a coma for a couple of weeks, but they might have a chance of recovery. But we have a lot of situations, and this is what I hear people share with me a lot, is where this is just an end of life situation. And yeah, we can keep them on machines, but that that's a real question of, is that really what we should do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I
And
mean,
I think if you're honest, I really bet you did what the only thing you could do.
yeah. Yeah, I guess anyone that has ever been in that situation, I'm sure they feel a certain amount of guilt or everything, but I don't
Yes, a
know.
lot of people
I
do.
was closer to my mother through the years. My dad served in the army, and when he got out, he became an alcoholic,
Okay.
and we had issues there. So, like I say, I was always closer to mom than I was him, because I guess he caused so much trouble through the years, and
Right.
we tried to get him help. He just refused. So,
Well, and see, I would interpret your experience differently, which would be that she was in her room and you pointed out to her that she had crossed over and she was like, oh, okay. And she started walking. She walked out the door and started walking. And you were kind of giving her some direction. And to me, that was not that she was angry, it's that she was confused, which is a very typical situation for many people who have crossed over, not just people who have crossed over in that situation, but for people who have crossed over in car accidents, for people who've crossed over in any kind of situation where they didn't anticipate they were going to,
hmm
so unless somebody like knew this is what's going to happen,
yeah,
um, then a lot of times there can be like this period where there's a little bit of confusion right after they cross, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, because they don't realize that they have actually died. And it's not because they're upset with you, it's because she hasn't figured that out yet.
yeah,
And she's just hanging out in her room. You know what I mean?
yeah,
She's like, oh, okay. I'm no longer alive. Okay, so I need to figure out where I need to go next,
yeah,
And so, the fact that you didn't see her again after that is an indication that I would actually consider really good, because it would indicate that help arrived for her and she was given direction to the next steps of her journey. And so to me, that would be good information for you too, that she found her way and she's, doing what she's probably needing to be doing. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. That's reassuring.
Yeah, I really think that I also would encourage you to look at it from the standpoint that, and I'll just talk to you from the standpoint of, as a mother to a son. I'm a mother, I have a son and two daughters, and I'm just going to talk to you as a mother to a son, that I, as a mother, would say to my own son, thank you so much for being courageous enough to be the one to make that decision, and for being there and holding my hand and being present during those difficult times and being a part of my life during those years. I think that I would really think about that, because as a mother, that's a real gift, that you were such a part of her life and that you made decisions and choices to be such a big part of her life, and that you chose to um, make those difficult decisions and to be there with her, that you were right there with her at her side even though it was difficult. And that's what I would tell you as a mother to her son to focus on, which would be, thank you for being there every step of the way with me.
Yeah,
That meant more to me than anything else. I mean, I can really say that as a feeling, almost I feel almost like tearful right now.
you're not
Feeling
the
that,
only one.
yeah, I mean, I almost wonder if, yeah, feeling a little bit from your own mother, but but it's also just as another mother, this is kind of a universal thing that we all feel, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for being there. Thank you for taking that journey with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
And that's what I would think about more with your mom, because what a great thing that you have those memories with her, you know?
Oh, yeah. Very much.
Yeah.
61 years of memories with her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll
That's
get
awesome.
I'll get back to my regular questions here. How how
These are
important
good too.
yeah, how important is meditation in your spiritual practice?
Oh, for me, it's really important. I do a lot of meditation. It's almost daily for me. Meditation, and I really encourage the meditation, especially in the beginning state of people trying to learn about and achieve out-of-body travel. And I encourage people to put in large blocks of time in meditation where I encourage you to, first of all, lie flat on your back. And the reason for that is because if you're going to consider going out of body, you want to be in a lying position where you won't like fall down and ruin it, So if you're sitting, that's not a good position to be in when you want to go into the out of body travel state. So you want to be lying down. You want to consider doing 3-hour blocks. And the reason for that is because the depth of consciousness that you want to reach to get to the vibrational state, it's kind of difficult to get there, especially in the beginning. As you continue your practice, you're going to get there much easier, but it takes sometimes years to do that. So in the beginning, you want to devote, 3-hour blocks sometimes. I know a lot of people can't do that all the time. So,
Yeah.
do what you can. Do what you can. If you only got 15 minutes, do 15 minutes. But realize that you're going to need to incorporate some of these longer time periods in order to go to the deeper levels of consciousness that you need to reach to get to that vibrational state. And so meditation is a big one for me, and I continue to consider the meditation. It's a daily practice for me.
Yeah.
And so it's very few days that I skip the meditation. So important.
I live in a household that meditating would be near impossible. I've got an 11-year-old daughter and I've got 3 dogs. And one of them is a husky, and he will argue about anything until he's blue in the face. He'll just sit there and argue with you.
Yeah.
He's cute as can be, but he's annoying sometimes.
I've always gotten my pets, my dogs, my cats to climb in bed and meditate with me. And so I've always loved doing that, but you do have to have a certain temperament, that's for sure.
Yeah. Plus, whenever I sit down to work on a show, my daughter wants something, or my wife wants something, or the dogs want out, or they want fed.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. When I
Yeah.
had my kids at home, I involved my kids in the meditating. And then later when they grew up, they complained about that. So I don't know if I should encourage that or not, but
Yeah.
y'all work with what works in your own home and with your own kids and everything, but you can sometimes, incorporate things into the family life or whatever, and sometimes you can't. But so, do what works in your own home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of my listeners in chat said cats meditate. So
Oh, they sure do. I
they
got 2 cats now. Yeah.
yeah
And I had
they
a
can do
dog
that
until
during a
recently, and she was great at meditating. She
yeah
was a good meditator.
they can do that during a nuclear holocaust, and I don't think it would bother them. So,
No, they wouldn't. They'd be fine.
in your practice and spirituality, how do you perceive the nature of reality based on your experiences?
Well,
It's like, is there a truth that you feel is often overlooked?
Well, I think that, gosh, that's a good question. I think that the truth that we miss is the truth of God. I mean, in today's world, we miss the truth of God a lot because a lot of there's a lot of secularism going on in the world today. So we miss the truth of God and that God is truly central, and that if we really want to find our bliss, our truth, and our happiness, and what's truly going to be good for us and for all, we have to find what is the will of God for us in our lives. And that's not a popular viewpoint.
Yeah, most definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah. And but the reality is that the more that you seek that will of God, the higher you go in the out of body travel experience. Because, I'd like to ask, the listener to just kind of imagine for a moment if what you're seeking. So let's just, and I guess a lot just depends on what are you seeking when you're seeking out of body travel. And a lot of people will have different answers to that. But in the end, what are we seeking, right? And the answer for me is God, right? And if you look at the answer in the ancient sacred texts and the answer to the prophets, saints, mystics, sages, and ascetics, the tribal cultures, the medicine men and women from throughout the ages, all these things that ironically, when I started having the out-of-body experiences that I was led to go to, they're all looking for God. They're all looking for the truth of God. So that truth, that God, which is up there in the highest heights in the center of the universe, then we have to, if we want to find that, then we have to be going towards that. And so if we're kind of just meandering around that, then we're going to kind of miss the goal, the point of the experience.
Yeah.
And so
I think you just answered my next question because I was going to ask what advice would you give to someone starting their spiritual journey, but you hit the nail on the head right there with what you just said.
there you go. Yeah. And so, you go back to what I was talking about earlier, which is the path of purification, right? And so what are we purifying for? It's because when you're seeking an all holy God, we are trying to become able to come closer and closer to that all holy God. And we are trying to raise our vibration. That purification raises our vibration to bring us into compatibility to coming closer and closer to that all holy God. And one of the things we miss because of the fact that we have this secular world where it's very popular to think that it's just really stupid to think of God, we miss the fact that that's where the gold is. So we're going to completely ignore the entire purpose of our existence here, which is to find him and to know, love, and serve him. And that's where our bliss is. That's where our joy and our love is. And the irony, too, Carl, that people don't understand. And you know, this is something that I think if people actually like study not just out of body travel, but near death experiences teach this, if people paid closer attention to it, they would understand this so much better. God is love. And but there's so much more to that people are not understanding. So there is an opposite to that. And so the further we are away from God, there is an absence of love too. And that's where we go into the darkness, you know. So what is it that people want? People want love, right? So when we talk about God being love, people don't understand what that really means. When you have an out of body experience or a near death encounter with the Almighty God, and you experience that unconditional love of God, and I've experienced it in so many different gradations, different ways, and in the near-death experience, but in so many thousands of ways, because I've had thousands of experiences in the out-of-body travel state, going in, from the initiations into the mysteries, the rites of passage, so many ways. So hard to quantify here.
Yeah.
But what you are talking about is that this love that God is actually what everyone is seeking. And so therefore, if everyone wants love, but yet they don't want God, they can never actually reach what it is they're seeking. And you see how easily the enemy thwarts each and every one of them, turning them away from God, who is the source and summit of all love that emanates in the entire universe.
I would think that it's very important, I guess, when you're getting into spiritual practices that you build a community with like-minded individuals.
That, yes, and that's very much so, in the Christian world, we talk about Christian community. In the Buddhist world, they call it the Sangha, and it is so helpful to have a community that supports us in our spiritual search and in any community, in any community, whatever it is. The New Age community has a different kind of community as well, where we have people who will direct us and support us in that search, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. When it comes to science and spirituality, do you find there's a connection or any overlap in both fields?
Well, there definitely is. And ironically, there is in the new series of books that I just released. It's a 28 volume series called the Complete Out-of-Body Travel and Astral Projection series. There's 28 volumes. One of them is on the science of out-of-body experiences. And it goes into a lot of detail about the different things that are being discovered right now. And of course, that changes rapidly. There's a lot of things in neuroscience that they're discovering and things like that. And I think they'll continue to find those connections between science and mysticism. I was asked to help with the Free organization in part because one of the things they were discovering was that in quantum science was that the things that the ancient mystics had been saying. Speaking of animals, I have one right behind me causing some trouble.
Yeah, I got one right next to me snoring.
Okay, you can cause trouble later. Okay. But the things that we were they were just that, a lot of the ancient mystics had said they were discovering in quantum science to be true. And so they wanted to include some mystics to discuss some of the things with their scientific work. And so these things are really starting to merge. So a lot of the theories about the oneness of all life, the mystical experience of the universal field of being. I wrote an article with Dr. Rudy Shield on the science of moral law, which is included in, I believe it is in my book called Out of Body Travel and Mysticism, which explains how Dr. Rudy Shield explained how all matter seeks to embody itself. And then I explained the moral law part of it. And he explained how moral law and science were showing this fascinating structure of how there seemed to be an active element of moral law within universal law. So there's all kinds of things that science is starting to show that, and a lot more. You can actually read the Science of Out-of-Body Experiences And you can also read that article, The Science of Moral Law, if you want, as well at the website, outofbodytravel.org. So there's a lot, there's a lot. It's not just a little bit. They definitely have a lot of overlap going on. But I think in the end, if I may just be so bold, the spiritual importance of out-of-body travel will always overshadow the scientific, simply because I think the scientific is going to continue to basically, I think it's going to continue to show new things. But what the spiritual has always shown, what the spiritual has always done, we have always seen, we have this body of work that's gone back for 5,000 years or more, showing the amazing things that have this path of purification that began 5,000 years ago. It's nothing new. It's been going on for forever. And we've been seeing that the spirit has been working with souls from, long, long ago, long before time. Hermes Trismegistus wrote about this in the Divine Pymander. We see it in the writings of Zarathustra. We see it in the writings of even a little bit in Akhenaten. We see it in many of the writings of the great saints. We see it in some of the writings of Guru Nanak. We definitely see it in the writings of Emanuel Swedenborg, John of the Cross. We see it in St. Alphonsus Liguori. Gosh, I could give you a list of thousands. So we see this mechanism of the purification of the soul working through the mechanism of the spirit through mysticism and out-of-body travel has been moving for thousands of years. So it's just going to continue to do this. And we can choose to enter into this process regardless. And the scientific things are going to continue to be discovered, and that's going to be awesome. But we have the choice to go ahead and benefit from the spiritual purification, the actual mechanism that the spirit has already put in place, that this has, which alters and changes and directs us towards the redemptive process of our soul, which shortens our journey here. It actually, what often happens is we see souls who get caught in this reincarnation cycle. They start reincarnating over and over and over again because they get stuck. But when you get into this process, you have the ability to accelerate this purification, and then you have the potential to possibly stop that and potentially ascend beyond that after this lifetime. And so you literally are accelerating the spiritual potential of your soul, and by a great deal. So out-of-body travel it's not just like this really cool thing to do. It literally has this huge spiritual potential.
Out of body travel itself, is that similar to remote viewing?
Actually, it's pretty different. A lot of people think it's the same, but it's not. And I actually have a book. Let me get the title to it. In this book, I wrote, it's called Out of Body Travel, Astral Travel, and Remote Viewing: Definitions, Similarities, Differences, Spiritual Potential, and Related Hierarchies. And you can download that, and I explain the similarities and the differences in a step-by-step manner, because I am a trained remote viewer in 3 different types of remote viewing, and so I go through all the very, very specific steps of what you do when you're remote viewing and how it is very different from out-of-body travel. They're just very different modalities, and they're both valid. They're just very different.
have you known people that got into the spirituality, remote viewing, and out of body travel? They got into it for the wrong reasons. I mean, notorious reasons, I guess I should say.
I don't know any of them personally, but I hear a lot about that happening. And certainly, people can do that. And, it can be just for, uh, things as random as, parlor tricks or paranormal games or things like that, or it can be people who think that they're going to make money or
Yeah.
I'm going to win the lottery or things like that, and they kind of miss the boat on the fact that any of these gifts, whether it's remote viewing or out of body travel, or really any paranormal gift, they have to be treated with the spiritual respect and honor that is given to any holy gift that is given us. And so it has to be honored properly. And so, first of all, out of body travel, yes, you can play around with it, but it's kind of pointless to do that. It's highly unlikely you're going to be given any lottery numbers or whatever. You have to remember that the whole point of the it's a gift, it's a tool, and the tool actually the purpose of it is that it is for higher spiritual development. And then what you need to understand is that those who actually work with us in out of body travel are generally supposed to be the higher teachers, masters, and guardians and guides. However, if you're playing around and doing all kinds of dumb things, well, then, then you can have all kinds of lost souls, wandering spirits, and you can even have evil spirits and just pranksters and tricksters, and you can have all manner of bad things that will play around with you, and it can get bad too. So you don't want to be doing that because it's just you have to think about it's no different than if you're reaching out for help on earth. If you're reaching out for something that is holy versus something that is unholy,
Yeah.
it's going to be it's going to be different. Now, like for instance, I'm just going to throw an idea out. Let's say you're using a Ouija board.
Hmm.
Do you think an angel is going to answer?
No, not really.
So who's going to answer a Ouija board? Okay. Just use your common sense. All right. So you have to understand angels answer prayer, and so you have to think about these things because you don't want to set yourself up to end up getting yourself in trouble. The whole point of out of body travel is that you want to seek the truth, no matter what that truth is, even if it's a truth that is different than what you believed before. And you want to know and love God, and you want to learn who God is. You want to understand him. You want to see yourself, even though that's going to be difficult because when you go through the purification process, you're going to be forced to face your own self, you're going to be seeing things, you're going to have your past lives revealed to you, and you're going to see things that you're not going to love about yourself.
Yeah.
You're gonna see things like that. you're gonna you're also gonna see beautiful things. You're gonna see things that are harder to see. But you're also gonna be shown things that are gonna contradict your prior view of reality. For instance, I'll tell you something that a gentleman shared with me shortly before his death. This was a man who was a Lutheran his entire life, and he came to me shortly before he was dying because he knew I was a friend with his wife, and he made fun of us for most of it because
Yeah.
he didn't believe in any of this stuff. And he came to me because he had a near-death experience. And he told me, he said, I had this near-death experience. And he said, I was taken down this corridor. And he said, everything I saw was from the ancient Roman rite, the old Catholic rite. It was all these traditional Catholic things. And he said it was so holy. And I was going down this corridor, and he said, I just knew that I had to become Catholic. And I was like, okay. And he became Catholic like 3 months before he died. And he was back, his funeral was in a Catholic church, but he told me he saw all these like old Catholic things. And his father was a Lutheran pastor, and I bring that up because he was shown all these things that were different from what he had previously believed. But he saw it in a way that it completely, he knew for him that this was true. You know what I mean? And he needed to do something different for him. And I know that for me, this happened to me too. And many, many times. And this is what I've seen with literally thousands of people where they have these experiences and they are shown and they see things, and it's totally different from what they previously thought to be true, but they know it's true. And so we are faced with things that are different. But the goal is to be prepared to meet this all holy God who is this emanation of love, which is what everyone's seeking. And so we have to be willing to learn what that is.
Yeah. Interpret it and understand it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm off on my breaks, but we'll go ahead and take another one. This break's about 5 minutes, and then we'll
Okay.
come back. And I've put the information on the YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch screens that if anyone wants to call in and ask you any questions, they're welcome to do so.
Okay.
We'll be right back here in just a few seconds, a few minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the stillness of the night, beneath a silver moon, Whitley whispers secrets out in the quiet gloom. In the Catskills mountains, he felt that strange embrace. Lost in the shadows, he found a different space.
Time slipped away like smoke through the trees. He questioned reality, heard the haunting pleas. Memories woven just out of reach. Each flashback a mystery, each scream a silent breach.
Can you hear the whispers, echoes of the night? Visitors from beyond what lives in their...
What began as a simple home improvement project turned into a real-life ghost story in Cordoba, Argentina, after a man uncovered a hidden underground room with chilling secrets buried inside. Crix Alice, a content creator known for exploring the paranormal, was clearing vines in his garden when he stumbled upon a weathered, overgrown door. Behind it was a narrow stairwell leading to a sealed chamber beneath the house, one untouched for decades. Inside, the room looked frozen in time. Dusty books, an old camera, and a vintage film projector lined the walls, but it was the upright piano in the corner that sent chills down Ali's spine. He claims the piano began to play on its own. Elise documented the experience on TikTok, where his followers watched in fascination and horror as he used a unique method to communicate with what he believed was a spirit. By asking the presence to play specific keys, he eventually received one eerie response: the word diary. The word led to a discovery of a hidden journal. According to Elise and a psychic he later consulted, the diary belonged to a woman named Adelina, who had allegedly been imprisoned in the secret room by her husband after he suspected her of being unfaithful with her piano teacher. The psychic believed the woman's spirit was still tied to the room, unresolved and unheard. To bring peace to the spirit, Elise said he visited the grave and left offerings. That's it for Dark Matter News. Catch up with us on the Midnight Frequency Facebook page. From Memphis, Tennessee, I'm Joshua Stark.
Welcome back to Midnight Frequency Radio. I'm Carl Richardson, and our guest, Marilynn Hughes. Welcome back, Miss Hughes.
Hi, thank you.
We have a question from chat. This is: can someone have an out of body accidentally? As a teen, I was falling asleep and was suddenly floating above my bed. It scared me, and I went back into my body.
Yeah, that's absolutely can happen, and it's a very common way for it to happen spontaneously. So yes, absolutely.
That
Can happen.
would scare me to death.
Oh, really?
Wait, what's going on here? You know.
Well, and a lot of times that is exactly how it happens the first time for people. So yeah.
All right. I'm not sure if we'll get calls in this evening. The show, I'm fairly new at this, and word is starting to get around. But if we don't get any callers, I do apologize for that.
Oh, no worries.
But
No worries.
one thing I wanted to ask: out of all the literature that you've written, is there something you would recommend to someone who's trying to get into the spirituality and metaphysics that you've written?
Oh, absolutely. The things I recommend to the people who are just starting is The Mysteries of the Redemption, a treatise on out-of-body travel and mysticism. And I always recommend Come to Wisdom's Door, How to Have an Out-of-Body Experience. Those are really good for people who are starting. And for people who, and we have some films, but let me just start with these books. For people who are interested in, getting an idea of mystical theology, one of the books in the new series, the Complete Out-of-Body Travel Guides series, I'm really excited about. I got to write a book on mystical theology and astral projection. Highly recommend that. It really gives a good overview of a lot of the mystical theology greats. And that's a great overview of mystical theology. Also, in that series, you can start with the complete manual of out-of-body travel and astral projection, which a lot of people are saying is really helpful for them starting out. And then there's a sequel to that, Advanced Out of Body Travel, which gives you some more advanced methods after you finish with the first one. And there's a ton of books in that series as well, for a lot of different things. You can read about understanding auras, psychic development, opening up your third eye, all kinds of things that help you with the preparatory stages too. So that's always helpful as well. But there's so many things in that series, but there's a whole bunch of things. We have a series of books that starts with Come to Wisdom's Door that gives you they go in sequence, and that's considered the how-to series.
Mm-hmm.
And it really goes in depth. So you're going to start with Come to Wisdom's Door, but then the Hammer of Mysticism is really good for that. And then The Fragrance of the Mystical Rose. And those are some books, and I probably gave you a little bit more than I don't want to overwhelm. But we also have all these films, and so you can flip over to our YouTube channel. There's links on the site and watch our films. And we have The Grand Phases of the Soul, which I mentioned before, but we also have a film called How to Have an Out-of-Body Experience, which is a very good in-depth film. We have 9 films there, so you can also watch, we have one on the initiations into the mysteries and one on the rites of passage. We have the Tao of Mysticism. And then I mentioned At the Feet of the Masters. That's a two volume set. There's several other things. And we also have these in-depth classes that you can watch there as well. And a lot of other things, tons and tons of interviews and live streams as well. So lots of questions and answers. Lots of things you can do. So just go to outofbodytravel.org and you can start there. You can download all the books for free. You can watch all the films for free, and whatever's there, you can check it out.
I'll add that we also posted links to your websites, the different aspects of it on our website. So if anyone wants to look, they can also go to our website and just click on the links.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I've only got one last question, but I was hoping someone would call in, or anyone in chat had a question, feel free to post it, and then I can relay it to Miss Hughes.
Okay.
But my final question is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in the world of spirituality and metaphysics?
Well, I've built the Out of Body Travel Foundation with the hope that we'll leave behind the legacy of this path of purification and opening this understanding of, the acceleration of the spiritual path, and helping souls to, stop this, this karmic circling. One of the things I was shown when I was going through the initiations and the mysteries was this karmic circling, and how so many souls on earth were stuck in the karmic circling, and it was really hard to get them out because we all get so lost, and we get so we don't see what we're doing, and we don't realize that we actually have to do something different. And as part of it is just because it's so habitual.
Yeah.
When we do our lifetime after lifetime, it's very habitual, and something has to kind of wrestle us up a bit so that we realize that we are actually just doing the same thing we always do, and that we need to do something different so that we have a different outcome this time around. And so, the real legacy is to help souls to start that process so that they can actually make more progress, towards the spiritual goals that they actually come here to achieve. And and hopefully, accelerate that for a lot of souls. And that's really what we're hoping to do is bring souls closer to the purpose of their existence here and helping them to find that and reach it.
Well, this radio broadcast was actually my something different. I'm definitely no radio personality, but I wanted to give a format that someone could come on and give their points of view on things and inform people, and then everyone could make their decisions from this.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, this is all it's all these little things that and it's the internet has given us a lot of vehicles where we can do a lot of different things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and also, in the I mean, I think it's really awesome in the legacy of Art Bell. I think it's neat that so many are kind of branching out in his legacy and wanting to almost like seeds of,
yeah,
you know, and I think that that's a wonderful thing that he would be very happy about.
yeah. I hope he's looking down and blessing me, possibly.
I think he would be really happy to see so many, I think he would be very happy to see that there are so many that are trying to carry on in different ways what he was trying to do, because all it does is it's spreading the seeds,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
new ways. And it's all an honor to him.
I hope so.
I feel it is. I feel it is, and I feel like he would feel that way. That's my thoughts,
Yeah.
whatever they're worth, Mhm.
Well, I haven't had any other questions yet, and no one's called in. The way I have it set up, it shows on my video screen. I don't actually show camera video, but it shows information on how to log in through a phone line into Zoom and ask questions. And then, like I say before, people can ask questions in chat. But so far, I've had a bashful audience. This is like my 6th official show, and I've had 1 or 2 in the past, but I'm hoping to get the word out farther. You know how it is when you first start something. It's get the
Oh
word
yeah.
out. Yeah,
Oh yeah. It's hard. It's hard. And it's hard to call in and actually ask a question sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stage fright. I
It's
get that before each show, so everybody out there, don't feel bad. It's typical.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Miss Hughes, it's been an honor to have you on, and
And an honor to be on. I thank
and
you
uh,
for the invitation.
and if you come out with some new books in the future, would be happy to have you on and discuss them.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and while we're talking about it, let me just tell you also about we also released To Gather the Winds of Heaven. So we released that as well, and that just came out on audio. And also the Astral Projection Made Easy came out on audio. So for those who would like to have that as an audiobook, that one's finally out in audio. And also all of the complete out of body travel uh, uh, and astral projection books are out in
Yeah,
audio now. And so that's now available in audio. So I'm very excited about that because that's been work in progress. But I did want to make people aware of To Gather the Winds of Heaven, because that is the 11th book in the Mysteries of the Redemption series. So that was a big deal. And we have a new narrator for that. And I think people are really going to like her. So check that one out. And also, another thing for your audience to know, please feel free to email me at Marilynn Hughes at outofbodytravel.org. And if you would like to have any free Audible codes, I would be happy to give your audience a free Audible audiobook. So
That's
just send me an email and I will send you an Audible code.
well, that's fantastic, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure my listeners do also.
Oh,
And
sure.
the audio formats are fantastic because if you're like me and diabetic, your eyesight isn't as great as it used to be, and audio books are fantastic.
That's true. Yeah, and a lot of people just like that format better, and I understand it. So yeah, that's available.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I will be back in touch with you probably tomorrow. I need to edit the recording of the show and cut out the copyright stuff so that there'd be no problems if you want to post it on your site also.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, Miss Hughes, and I guess I'll say a good evening. And once again, I appreciate you being on the show, and hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you so much, Carl. It was nice to meet you via audio.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.